Hi guys, welcome back to my videos. This video is going to specifically talk about how to think from the end result, how to think as if you have your desire, and how to just go about mentally focusing on that and what it actually means to think as if, which is what you actually need to be doing throughout the manifesting process. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Stay tuned in just a moment for my comments, my advice, my feedback, and just the general insight into why this is important. So if you would like to get some extra support, you can work with me starting from just $2.99 a month. Everything will be popped on screen, and I do have some special coaching offers as well. So you can work with me one-on-one, or just buy digital products, or join more of like a group monthly membership. And yeah, everything is on screen, and you can get 20% off, saving £40 on a couple of my coaching packages right now. So they are really, really good value. So take a look if you're interested while the offer still lasts. And yeah, let's get into the video. The first question I'm going to pose to you guys, I'm not going to be posing for you guys, but I'm posing this question to you. What would you think if you had it right now? So pause the video, take a second to think. What would you be thinking if you had your desire right now? Maybe you just be casually relaxed, go in a relaxed manner, going about your day, you know, just focusing on what you're doing, not having doubts or anxiety or, you know, worrying about anything, just using your phone as normal, using social media as normal. Keep doing that. You don't need to change your habits in terms of checking up on results, checking up on an SP, panicking if an SP is going to post something, things like that. Because usually with a relationship, this is the best, easiest way to, you know, think from the end result. So you want to ask yourself and then think up some examples of what would you be thinking right now? Those are the kind of thoughts you can use for an inner conversation. So just what you'd be thinking to yourself, kind of, yeah, talking to yourself, those conversations you have with yourself, the thoughts back and forth that you may have around a topic. Those are the kind of thoughts you want to be consciously creating in your mind. Next, you want to think to yourself and ask yourself, what type of mindset would you have? So not just what would the thoughts be, but what would your overall mindset be? What would the quality, you know, the caliber of mindset and positivity and growth, what would that mindset look like for you? So it can be slightly different to everyone, obviously, and also depending on what you're manifesting, what those shifts and changes would actually look like in your life. So it would be things like obviously thinking and mentally being very confident, having that kind of embodying a confident mindset and a confident energy and beliefs and self-concept. You would just be confident. You wouldn't be doubtful to a large extent. I'm not saying any doubt, but like a lot of doubt and predominantly thinking negatively, spiraling, questioning things. That would not be the predominant focus. That would not be what your mindset is like. It would be confident. And also having thoughts that relate to having your end result. So thoughts about how your day would go, being happy, being balanced, being confident. And I don't just mean the emotion of happiness, but being content within yourself and thinking thoughts that align with that and not having those spiraling, doubtful moments consistently. One or two here and there is completely fine and normal. You know, you're a human being. It's not about having this perfectionist mindset, but it's about being confident and the predominant focus being positive, being confident, being secure in yourself and what you're manifesting, knowing that it can and will be yours. That's the kind of mindset you want to try and create. So another aspect that still ties into the way you think, but also just again, how you go about your day, not taking action simply because a negative thought is in your mind. So what would you do if this thing were true, if this manifestation were true right now in your reality, objectively in the 3D? What would you do? How would you go about your day? Like I said, not having doubts and panicking and feeding into that, and then going to check social media, going to check your text messages, talking to friends about something, panicking and looking up things online, you know, whatever it may be. You would not be doing those negative activities if you already had this thing in your reality. So basically thinking as if ties into the mindset and thinking as if, kind of acting as if, but it's from the thought process, the thought aspect of just the literal thoughts going in your mind, of that thing already being true in your reality, you having your manifestation. So repetitively and consciously telling yourself, whether you believe it or not, you know, oh, I'm so happy, I'm so grateful, I can't wait to go on our date tonight, I can't wait to drive my new dream car, you know, I love that I have this thing in my life, oh, I'm excited to do this activity that involves my manifestation, you know, whatever it may be, you consciously and repetitively get in the habit of thinking those type of thoughts. And yeah, like I said, the questions that I posed to you guys: what would you think if it were true? How would you go about your day if this was already true? Things like that. You can ask yourself that if you're really not sure about what this would look like for you. So having touched on that, I do want to say you don't need to act or live as if, wait, what did I write down here? Yeah, you don't need to act or live as if is what I also wanted to bring up, because there is a difference. I think there's a clear distinction between the two of thinking as if. It's very much based on your mindset and your mentality and the repetitive thoughts throughout the day that you have, and what are the positive or negative themes of those thoughts every day. So being aware of that, whereas acting and living as if is literally taking some kind of action, which there's nothing wrong with that if it just is for your own enjoyment and for your own mindset, that's fine. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to, for example, throw out certain clothes or buy extra things or start going into jewelry stores to look at engagement rings on your own. You don't have to be doing anything like that. That is not mutually exclusive, but it's kind of separate to manifestation. It's not quite the way the manifestation process goes. It's very much based on your thoughts. So there is a distinction. You don't have to act or live as if. I just wanted to add that in. Next is, of course, being on a clean mental diet. So by this, I mean, obviously, mental dieting by removing those negative thoughts. That's kind of what the analogy is there, the comparison of removing the junk from your mind, right? The same way you remove junk food from a diet, you are trying to feed your mind with positive thoughts, you're shutting down and pushing back against those negative thoughts where you can catch them. So just being on a pretty clean mental diet, that's also a big part of thinking as if. And that ties into very much the practice of self-awareness and setting an intention to catch the negative thoughts and saying, I'm going to do my best to recognize and notice where I'm thinking negatively, where those opposing thoughts are coming in, what's the root of the issue, what triggers me. Just being self-aware and even setting that intention and trying and saying, I'm going to put in an effort to make a habit of this. Doesn't need to be perfect, but as long as you are aware of it and you want to put in that effort, you can keep picking yourself back up, keep picking your thoughts back up and turning them around into the positive. And yeah, setting that intention and reminding yourself to be aware of what's going on in your mind throughout the day. So basically, when doubt and those opposing thoughts come up in your mind, you turn it back around into the opposite, into the positive opposite. Another point to remember is that you obviously wouldn't be questioning things in your reality or your manifestation if you already had it. So everything that goes on in your life or day to day, or that you come across and see online or in social media, whatever it may be, you wouldn't be questioning everything, reading into it, trying to analyze things, coming up with negative assumptions. If that were true, for example, if SP, that's your manifestation, were already your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you wouldn't be questioning, oh, it's been 10 minutes and he hasn't replied to my text. Oh my gosh, like you just wouldn't do stuff like that. It would be much more natural. You would have a pretty positive assumption about everything, and it would be just much more calm and enjoyable, and you would trust that person. You'd trust that the end result of your manifestation, oh, there's a really pretty rainbow outside. Sorry, going completely off topic, but I take that as a really positive sign. Loving that. Let's keep going. You wouldn't be questioning everything. You would trust and just be happy and calm and be like, well, this is mine. This belongs to me. This is my relationship. This is my, whatever it may be. And you would just trust. It would just be a fact and an assumption. You'd be like, well, yeah, that car is mine. It's not going to disappear tomorrow. My boyfriend isn't going to disappear tomorrow. Like, you just wouldn't have any of these kind of assumptions. So try your best not to feed into those spiraling thoughts. And if they do come up, that's fine. The negative thoughts will come up every now and again, but get into a habit of flipping them and not feeding into it and pushing back with your mental diet and turning those negative thoughts back around. So that is going to be today's video. I hope you guys found it useful and enjoyable. Please do thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It's all free for you, and you'll be one of the first people to be updated with all of my new content and posts. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.